All right. This is an exciting day, everybody. I have Dr. Adam Harrison with me today. Dr. Adam, tell us something about you.
Hi, Dr. Mary. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
I am a doctor of almost 21 years. I retrained to become a lawyer and used that to go into medical leadership. So I was medical director and medical lead for some organizations in the UK. And had some leadership coaching when I was working in those leadership roles, and absolutely loved it, really resonated with me, and thought that's what I want to be doing.
I love
So
it.
I'm trained to be a coach. So I'm now a life leadership and executive coach, and I have interest in careers coaching, but expertise in leadership coaching and helping doctors and other professionals who've been bullied.
Nice. I've been bullied. Oh, okay. Well, I have my business is Brain Fresh, and I love to talk about a framework because that's how I think I'd see nerves and everything, So I always see frameworks. So in Brain Fresh, we talk about, how do we prep as a coach? Because I'm a neurologist and a coach, and how do we prep as a coach? So I love to talk to other coaches. I always think, if we get ourselves in a good place emotionally, that's kind of contagious to our client. They will sense that even if it's not consciously, they'll, that's something that happens super fast where they
Yeah.
sense our emotions are, sometimes we call it energy, what kind of energy you're giving off. Um, and we know that if we put people in kind of positive emotional state, they're we're hoping to trigger them and in that they into their positive emotions into them being ready to change or to think of new ideas or see something in a new perspective. So we know as coaches that if we get people in good emotional positive states, like light bulbs go off, right? So tell us what you do as a coach. Just how do you prep for a session? What have you noticed in relation to emotions and coaching?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's the self-care routines and rituals beforehand. So
Mhm.
I always make sure I've got plenty of time before a session. So, for example, if I have a 9 a.m. session, then I'm kind of back after dropping my daughters at school by say 8:30. So I've got
Mhm.
half an hour to have a bite to eat, have some drinks, kind of
Mhm.
get myself chilled out so that I'm nourished and hydrated and not dashing from walking through the door after the school
Mhm.
run and the stress of dealing with the traffic straight into a session with the client. And I use that time as well to either reflect on the initial kind of chemistry chat we've had if it's the first session, and try and remember some useful points to raise, or revisit the coaching summary notes from the previous session just to refresh me and what was it that the client needed to bring to the session today.
That's
And
great.
then I'm ready to be up and running and let them just speak to me about what
I
they've
love
done.
that. Yeah. It's important, right? Because we know if we're stressed, then, they'll sense that 100%. And
Yeah.
when we're stressed, it kind of shuts down the good blood flow to our brain and our brain just doesn't work as well. So, I've been known to like, try to squeeze a few too many things into a day. So I agree with you. Like these kind of sessions, I really do like to prioritize that I'm not rushing. I like to
Yeah.
put them a certain time of day that I'm also kind of my best time of day.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's great. Because the alternative
Absolutely.
isn't very productive, I'd say. I mean, have you had that experience that either the client's rushing or you're rushing or
Yeah.
something happened and it's not optimal?
Definitely. Definitely. And so now I won't ever arrange any back-to-back coaching sessions
Mhm.
or a coaching session straight after some other kind of meeting or event. Always allow a decent amount of time between them because, I need to process and reflect on the session I've just had, kind of subconsciously as well.
Mhm.
And, think I like to do my summaries straight after while it's still fresh as well. And then perhaps revisit them the next day after they've percolated a little bit overnight,
Mhm.
and yeah, I just feel like I need that time, and it makes me feel uncomfortable to be rushing anyway. I do spend most of my life rushing, to be fair, but I don't like that feeling. So
Mhm.
if this is within my locus of control, that I can arrange my appointments suitably staggered, that's better for me and hence
Right.
better for the client because I'm
Right.
not stressed, then I
Right.
try to do that. I also try to think what time is it with them, if we're working in different time zones,
Mhm.
and think, well, you know, I need to make sure that they've had their lunch if it's a sort of
Mm-hmm.
lunchtime session, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so they're nourished and hydrated and so on, so they can
Right.
give their best.
I love it. All the basics, it really matters, right? We know that matters for brain function. I mean, it's just like it's a metabolically really active organ. So if it doesn't have lunch, we all know
Yeah,
how it will not work. Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your tips and happy coaching to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having
Okay.
me.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to. Okay. We have Dr. Adam Harrison here. Adam, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Mary. How are you?
Good. I love talking about, the brain and coaching, and Adam's a leadership coach, executive coach. So Adam, tell us what you do and some of your, coaching tips for other coaches out there about how do you get your clients to get in that good, positive emotional state, which helps people find their motivation to change. What are some things you do either before coaching or during coaching to get your
Yeah.
clients in that good state?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think we've just sort of exemplified the kind of, you know, the courtesies and the niceties of saying how are you, and all of that, and
Right.
actually, you know, never forget it is a coach and client relationship, but it's an interaction between two humans, you know,
Mhm.
and the rapport is the most essential thing. You know, they say that studies show that coaching works better or even at all if there's a good rapport between the coach and the coachee.
Yes.
So, you know, it's just kind of making them feel feel at ease and feel comfortable, and just being friendly. I'm quite a kind of gregarious, smiley,
Mhm.
laughy sort of person. One of my
Mhm.
5 core values is humor and love.
Love it.
Are 2 of my 5 core values. So, you know, I will make people feel at ease, and I'll you get to know them, don't you? So you ask them also, how's work, or how are you today? What's been going on? How's your family, and things like that, and just kind of
Mhm.
ease them into the session before, you know, jumping in there with the
Right.
right. So have you
Right,
achieved
right.
those goals I set you 2 weeks ago?
Right,
You know?
right. That's so
Just,
true.
yeah, just kind of like, you know, just genuine, authentic niceness. They're not niceties for the sake of it. It's just like,
Mhm.
I have an interest in you as a person, and I
Mhm.
can't separate from your goals. I want you to achieve your goals, but I can only do that if we have a good relationship, you
Mhm.
know. And
Mhm.
it's a bit like my doctor-patient relationship in a
I
way.
love that. Yes, yes. And what about the values? I mean, how do you remind them if they're, kind of stuck and they can't see other options, or how do
I,
you bring up the values again?
I absolutely do. So
Yeah.
a lot of clients and a lot of doctors have never really looked at their values, and I
Mhm.
admit that I was about 42 or 43 before someone asked me to do a values questionnaire,
Mhm.
and it was a complete revelation to me, you know.
Mhm.
And it made sense. It's Things started to make sense. You know, we all know, we have a feeling of what our values are, and we feel
Mhm.
uncomfortable if we're kind of bucking and resisting those values, you know.
Mhm.
And things won't work out if we do try and challenge and resist our values, but we don't always have a label for what they are, you know.
Right.
And doing that questionnaire for me was informative, you know. And so I always get clients to do that, and then I always bring it back to that as the first principles, and say, you know, so, you know, you're thinking about this goal, this is how we could, you know, work on that. How does that align with your values?
Mhm.
Because if that isn't going to work for you, if that's going to align with your values, you're not going to achieve that goal in that way.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
it has to be, you know, through and through in line with the values.
Right, right. I love that. Yeah, that's true. And I agree with you. And I think they might go toward it for a little bit, but they probably won't go all the way or achieve it if
Yeah.
it isn't, part of that. And it is nice to have, give people that clarity. Like, yeah, you've been living these values. You just really haven't listed them.
Yes.
And you've known when something has been against your values, why you're like, oh, I want to stay here and work here. I don't like, this isn't okay with me, that this isn't like, for me, it's equality. So I like gender equality, any
Yeah.
equality. I'm like, I'll
Yeah.
stay here and I'll work on that because I want to, I want to see that,
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
see that come to fruition. Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, yeah. So can you tell a story about somebody who's like, didn't realize their value and they just really hadn't like outlined them before? Is new to them?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm working with a few American physicians at the moment, actually, for a particular organization. And I always sort of say to them, you know, what are your organization's values? You know, a lot of
Mm,
companies have organizational values,
mhm,
whether they're just lip service or whether they're actually adhering to them is
mhm,
another matter.
mhm,
But do your values align with the organization's values? Because that may explain why you're not particularly happy at work at the moment.
mhm, mhm. It's true,
There's
right? Yeah.
that misalignment there, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
And so I tend to explore that and say, you know, you wouldn't strike up a friendship with someone who advocated murder or something like that, you know, because
Right,
that's
right.
not in line with your values. So why would
Mhm,
you work for an organization that doesn't suit your values, you know?
mhm.
And that there's always going to be that dysfunction there if there's not alignment.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think, when people realize if they're really aligned with the values, it just feels so right. It just feels like there's less, barriers, and they're willing to put a lot of their time and energy into it, which is, so neat to see. It's just really great to see when people succeed and they figure that out. Like, this
Yeah,
is important to me. I'm gonna get this done. Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. Well, it's the
And
power of
look,
coaching. Yeah.
sorry, I was just going to say,
Yeah, go ahead.
even at levels below that, you may have the organization's values, but what are the values of your line manager? What are the values of
Okay, right.
your teammates? What are the values of your subordinates? You know,
Mm.
and are these
Mhm.
creating clashes, almost like
Mhm.
clashes of personality? You know,
Mhm.
because your values are malaligned. You
That
know,
would make sense. Yeah, especially if you're dealing with people with getting bullied at work. I had
Mm.
someone recently say, there shouldn't be trauma at work, and I thought, oh my gosh, there really
Yeah,
shouldn't. So I'm glad you're out there, helping them realize what's important to them and to either stay or not. To stay in an environment that really aligns with what's important to them, and then that just feels so right. Yeah, I think that's great.
absolutely.
Okay, well, happy coaching, Adam.
Thanks so much,
And
Mary.
then
You
we'll put
too.
thank you. We'll put the link in some of the notes about where people can find you if they want to connect
Thank
with you. Okay?
you.
Yes. Have a great day. Thank you.